Hey, hey, look at this, guys. The old man has shaky hands, drinking coffee while holding a shaking gun and firing off machine.
A teen mocked a 92-year-old Marine. Then his grandpa walked in when 17-year-old Jason mocked 92-year-old Walter Griffin's trembling hands at Rosie's diner. He had no idea the old man was a decorated Marine, or that his own grandfather was about to walk in and recognize his former commanding officer. Rosie's diner buzzed with Saturday afternoon energy. Families filled red vinyl booths beneath faded photos of local heroes. The smell of bacon and coffee mixed with teenage laughter. Jason Mitchell and his friends occupied their usual corner, phones out, recording TikTok videos. They mocked everything around them. Today's target sat alone at the counter, an elderly man whose hands shook as he lifted his coffee cup. Walter Griffin, 92, focused on his coffee. Parkinson's made simple tasks feel impossible. 30 years of Marine service had carried him through World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. The trimmer started 5 years ago. It stole his independence while leaving his mind sharp enough to remember every fallen Marine from battles that kids today learned about in history class. This diner visit was a small victory against isolation. His friends were dead. His family was busy. Stories from his wars seemed pointless to a smartphone generation. Jason Mitchell, 17, saw only entertainment. High school senior with college plans, he lived for social media likes. Respect came from followers, not lifetime service. His phone focused on the old man's shaking hands. His classmates encouraged the performance. "Look at Grandpa's shaky hands," Jason announced loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Walter heard, but kept drinking with quiet dignity. 30 years in the Marines had taught him to ignore civilians who didn't understand sacrifice. Some wars are fought with bullets, others are fought with kindness, when choosing cruelty would be easier. Jason started recording while mimicking Walter's tremors. His friends laughed and urged him on. Their mockery turned an elderly veteran's medical condition into entertainment. Social media content that treated human suffering as viral video material. Jason exaggerated the shaking motions. His phone captured Walter's involuntary tremors. His friends snickered as the performance grew bolder. "Hey, old man, need help with that coffee?" Jason called out. He recorded expected reactions for his TikTok, where elderly embarrassment generated followers. Walter turned slowly. His weathered eyes carried experiences Jason couldn't imagine. Korean mountains where Marines died protecting others. Vietnamese jungles where young men bled for causes they couldn't control. "I manage fine, son. Thank you." The polite response disappointed Jason. Viral videos needed drama, not dignity. He decided to get closer. "Man, you're really shaking. Maybe stick to sippy cups," Jason suggested. His friends laughed. Walter studied the young man. His cruelty revealed character that service might improve through discipline and sacrifice. "Son, these hands carried wounded Marines through enemy fire in Korea. Shaking doesn't change what they accomplished." The unexpected response challenged Jason's narrative about a helpless old man. Korea? That was like forever ago. Ancient history, Gramps. History that protected your freedom to disrespect those who earned it. Jason's friends encouraged him to continue. Other customers began watching the confrontation. Jason reached his performance peak. He imitated Walter's trembling with exaggerated movements. Parkinson's disease became comedy. "Look, guys, I'm old and shaky and probably wet myself too," Jason announced. His phone captured the act for social media. Walter felt familiar fire, the same protective rage from a chosen reservoir when Chinese forces surrounded his unit. But instead of anger, he chose dignity. When you're my age, you'll understand that shaking hands are a small price for a long life of service. These tremors earned their right through protecting ungrateful children like you. The response began shifting the diner's mood. Other customers recognized the mockery of a military veteran, but Jason doubled down as the door chimed. Robert Mitchell, 68, entered expecting quiet coffee. Instead, he heard his grandson's cruel laughter. Then he saw a familiar face at the counter, features aged but unmistakable after 7 decades. Walter Griffin, Robert whispered. Memories flooded back to Chosin Reservoir. Lieutenant Griffin had carried wounded Private Robert Mitchell through enemy lines, a fighting withdrawal that saved thousands. Walter Griffin, Robert said louder. He approached the counter where his former commanding officer sat enduring mockery from his own grandson. Jason continued performing. He was unaware his grandfather stood transfixed by recognition. Grandpa? Jason noticed Robert's shocked expression while still recording. Walter looked up. His trembling hand steadied as military bearing returned. Bobby Mitchell. Robert approached with military respect despite civilian clothes. Lieutenant Griffin, sir. They shook hands. Walter's trembling grip carried more strength than Parkinson's had stolen. Jason, this is Lieutenant Walter Griffin, my commanding officer in Korea, Robert announced. The diner went quiet. Your commanding officer? Jason's performance stopped cold. Other customers paid attention. The reunion between combat veterans shifted the entire atmosphere. Chosin Reservoir, 1950, Walter explained. Memories of frozen hell surfaced. Robert's eyes filled with tears. Lieutenant Griffin carried me 3 miles through enemy territory. Shrapnel tore through my leg. He saved my life and 12 other Marines. Jason felt his world shift. His elderly target became a military hero. Those trembling hands had once saved his grandfather's life. Sometimes the most important lessons arrive when you least expect them. They're delivered by people whose past connects to your present in ways that change everything. Jason stared at his phone, still recording. His grandfather's story transformed everything. The old man he'd mocked was a war hero. The trembling hands had carried wounded soldiers through battle. Grandpa, I didn't know, Jason started. You never asked about family history, Robert said. Disappointment cut deeper than anger. This is Lieutenant Griffin, finest Marine I ever served with. Walter studied Jason. He measured potential rather than current failure. Robert, your grandson has a chance to learn something today. The diner buzzed with whispers. Customers realized they'd witnessed mockery of a decorated veteran by his own family member. Cell phones appeared as the story spread beyond Jason's original audience. Sir, I apologize, Jason said. He put his phone away. The social media performance suddenly felt meaningless. These hands did what duty required when Marines needed leadership, Walter explained patiently. Shaking doesn't diminish past accomplishments. Robert felt pride watching his grandson accept responsibility. He understood the teaching moment Walter was creating. Lieutenant Griffin saved 17 Marines during the worst fighting of the Korean War, Robert added. Your mockery targeted a genuine American hero. Jason's live stream had captured the entire encounter. Comments poured in as viewers learned about Walter's service. That old Marine saved your grandpa's life. Show respect. My grandfather fought in Korea, too. This is shameful." But other comments revealed the divide. "Cringe boomer worship. It's just some old dude." Jason watched his follower count fluctuate. Viewers chose sides. Some supported him. Others condemned his mockery of a veteran. "Jason, turn off the phone," Robert requested. But Walter had a different idea. "Son, your followers don't understand military sacrifice. Society doesn't teach it. This is a chance to educate instead of entertain." Walter began describing the Chosin Reservoir battle, 17 days of fighting in 30-degree temperatures against overwhelming Chinese forces. "We were outnumbered 4-1, surrounded, cut off from supplies. Marines like your grandfather kept us together when survival meant trusting the man next to you with your life." Jason's comments began changing. Viewers learned about real combat experience that social media couldn't capture. "My grandfather was a hero?" Jason asked. "Your grandfather was a Marine who did his duty, same as thousands of young men who served their country," Walter replied. Instead of ending the live stream, Jason made an unexpected decision. He turned the phone toward Walter. "Lieutenant Griffin, would you tell my followers about the Marines who didn't come home?" Walter's voice carried the weight of loss. He began reciting names. Private Johnson, 19 years old. Corporal Martinez, 20. Sergeant Anderson, 22. The live stream became an impromptu memorial. Walter honored fallen brothers while Jason's audience learned about individual sacrifice behind military statistics. "These Marines died protecting your right to make videos, to attend school, to speak freely without fear," Walter explained. Jason's followers responded with growing respect. Education replaced entertainment. The cruel mockery had become something meaningful. Robert watched his grandson mature in real time. Family history connected with national sacrifice through Walter's patient teaching. "Some gave all so all could give some," Walter concluded. "Your generation inherits freedom others paid for." The diner erupted in applause. Customers recognized the transformation from mockery to memorial. Jason faced a choice that would define his character: continue seeking social media validation or accept responsibility for nearly destroying something sacred. "Sir, I want to make this right," Jason said. His live stream peaked at 2,000 viewers. "How do I honor their sacrifice?" Walter smiled. "Start by understanding what your grandfather went through. Learn the history. Share the stories. Make sure their sacrifice isn't forgotten." Jason's comment section filled with requests for more military history. His cruel entertainment had accidentally created educational content that viewers actually wanted. "I'll research every Marine who died at Chosin," Jason promised. "I'll make sure people know their names." Robert felt overwhelming pride. His grandson chose growth over defensiveness. Walter reached into his wallet. He pulled out a faded photograph. Young Marines in Korea, including a 20-year-old Robert Mitchell. "Your grandfather was the bravest man I knew, wounded but never quit, never abandoned his brothers." Jason looked at the photo. He saw his grandfather as a young warrior instead of just an old man with outdated stories. "I want to be like him," Jason said quietly. The live stream ended with Jason promising his followers he would share real stories of military sacrifice instead of mocking those who'd served. Sometimes redemption comes through teaching moments that transform cruel entertainment into meaningful education about sacrifice that deserves honor rather than ridicule. Jason's transformation faced immediate testing. His original friends rejected his new direction. They wanted the cruel Jason back, not this military worship version that killed their entertainment. "Dude, you've gone totally soft," complained his friend Tyler. "It's just some old guy with shaky hands. Who cares about ancient wars?" But Jason's live stream had attracted new followers. Military families shared his content about honoring veterans. His follower count grew. "My dad served in Iraq. Thank you for showing respect," one comment read. "Finally, someone our age who gets it," wrote another. The support gave Jason strength. He resisted peer pressure that demanded he return to mockery for social media success. Walter watched the young man struggle. He struggled between old friends who wanted cruelty and new purpose that required courage. "Son, doing right isn't always popular, but it's always right," Walter offered. Jason processed competing pressures. Robert provided family support as his grandson chose character over popularity. "Your great-grandfather would be proud," Robert said. "He raised me to respect service. I failed to pass that on. You're fixing my mistake." Jason felt the weight of family legacy. Multiple generations of military service connected through this moment. Everything had changed in a diner. Tyler grew more agitated as Jason refused to return to their usual cruel entertainment. The attention was shifting away from their group. Other customers were focused on the veteran reunion instead of teenage antics. "This is stupid," Tyler muttered, but he wasn't ready to give up. He had his own phone, his own audience to please. The real test came when Tyler started his own live stream. He mocked Jason's conversion and continued the cruel entertainment that had made them popular. "Look at Jason now, crying over some old Marine. What a loser," Tyler announced while filming Jason's conversation with Walter. Jason faced the ultimate choice: defend his new values publicly or retreat to avoid confrontation. "Tyler, stop," Jason said firmly. He stood between his former friend and Walter. "Or what? You'll fight me over Grandpa's shaky hands?" His name is Lieutenant Walter Griffin. He's a decorated Marine who saved my grandfather's life. Show some respect. The confrontation attracted the entire diner's attention. Jason publicly chose honor over popularity. "You've changed, man, and not for the better," Tyler said while recording the conflict. "I've learned something," Jason replied. These hands Tyler's mocking carried wounded Marines through enemy fire. They earned the right to shake through courage that protected ungrateful kids like us. Walter felt pride watching Jason defend him. The young man used words that echoed their earlier conversation. Robert smiled as his grandson demonstrated courage. Military families passed it down through generations, even when civilian society didn't appreciate that legacy. Jason's followers watched him choose principle over popularity, education over entertainment, honor over humor that targeted vulnerable people. But Tyler wasn't finished. He sensed his audience slipping away. Jason's being brainwashed by military propaganda. Don't let them guilt you into caring about dead soldiers from ancient wars. The cruel words hit Walter like physical blows, but Jason's response surprised everyone, including Tyler. Those dead soldiers died so you could have the freedom to be this disrespectful. The least you can do is not mock the survivors. Tyler's mockery backfired. Diner customers condemned his continued cruelty toward a 92-year-old veteran. Jason's new followers did the same. "Kid, show some respect for your elders," called out a customer. "That Marine fought for your freedom," added another. Tyler found himself isolated. Community support rallied around Walter and Jason's transformation from mockery to respect. "Whatever, this is stupid," Tyler muttered. He ended his live stream that had failed to gain support for continued cruelty. Jason felt relief as peer pressure evaporated. Community support reinforced doing what was right rather than what was popular. But Tyler wasn't ready to quit. He approached Walter with defensive hostility still intact. Walter surprised him with patience. Military leadership had taught him about dealing with difficult soldiers who needed guidance rather than punishment. "Son, anger comes from pain. What's hurting you?" The unexpected compassion from his target disarmed Tyler's defensive hostility. For a moment, the mask slipped. "My dad deployed when I was 10, never came back the same. I guess I blame the military for changing him." Walter nodded with understanding. "War changes everyone, but your father's sacrifice protected ungrateful people like you. Help him heal instead of hating what he served." The conversation offered Tyler a different path, one toward healing family wounds instead of perpetuating them through cruelty toward other veterans. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are carrying pain we can't see. Healing begins when someone offers understanding instead of retaliation. Jason spent the rest of the afternoon listening to Walter's stories. His live stream continued educating viewers about Korean War history that textbooks couldn't capture through personal experience. "Tell them about the march to Hagaruri," Robert requested. He shared memories that had bonded the two men across decades. Walter described the fighting withdrawal. Military historians called it one of the greatest strategic retreats in warfare history. Marines called it advancing in a different direction. "We carried our wounded, our dead, and our pride, left nothing behind for the enemy except empty ground we'd held with blood," Walter explained. Jason's followers learned about military values that prioritized brotherhood over individual survival. Tyler began asking questions instead of making jokes. Walter's patient teaching reached past defensive anger to curious young man who needed education about military sacrifice his father had made. "Did my dad see fighting like that?" Tyler asked hesitantly. "Different war, same courage, different enemy, same sacrifice. Your father served with honor that deserves your respect, not your resentment," Walter replied. Healing began replacing hurt in Tyler's relationship with military service. Robert felt gratitude watching Walter teach lessons. Civilian society had failed to provide education about honoring veterans regardless of which conflict had tested their courage. As the afternoon wore on, the diner had transformed. What started as cruel entertainment had become an impromptu history lesson. Other customers joined the conversation, sharing their own family military stories. The peaceful education session was interrupted when Jason's parents arrived. Concerned neighbors had called about their son's military obsession that had replaced college plans with dangerous ideas about service. "Jason, we need to talk. Now." His mother's voice carried authority that brooked no argument. "Mom, Dad, I want you to meet Lieutenant Griffin and hear about Grandpa's service." "We're leaving. This has gone far enough," his father interrupted. He studied Walter with suspicion rather than respect. The family drama unfolded in front of Jason's live stream audience. His parents clearly disapproved of the military influence on their son's suddenly changed behavior. "Jason, you're going to college, not the military," his mother announced loudly. She dismissed the transformation that had occurred through education about family legacy. "Mom, I learned about Grandpa's service today, about sacrifice that protected our comfortable lives," Jason explained. He faced family pressure to abandon his newfound respect. His father worried about social media influence. He failed to understand the genuine character development that had occurred through Walter's patient teaching. "This is just teenage rebellion triggered by some old man's war stories," his father dismissed. He failed to recognize the educational opportunity Walter had provided, but Robert stepped forward to defend his grandson's transformation. "Wait," Robert said firmly. "Walter Griffin is the decorated Marine who saved my life in Korea. Jason learned about honor today, not rebellion." Jason's parents paused, taken aback by Robert's intervention in family discipline. They weren't used to the elderly man asserting himself so strongly. "Dad, we appreciate military service, but Jason has college plans," his mother tried to explain. "And military service can enhance those plans," Robert replied. "Walter's influence has been positive, not manipulative." The live stream audience watched family dynamics play out in real time. Comments poured in supporting Jason's transformation while criticizing his parents' dismissive attitude. "Let the kid learn about his heritage," wrote one viewer. "Military service builds character," added another. Jason felt torn between family expectations and newfound purpose. His parents wanted safety and conventional success. But Walter's stories had awakened something deeper. "I'm not saying I'll definitely enlist," Jason tried to compromise, "but I want to learn more about military service, about family history, about what it means to serve others instead of just myself." His parents exchanged worried glances. This wasn't teenage rebellion they recognized. It was genuine character development they weren't prepared to handle. Tyler watched the family conflict with growing understanding. His own resentment toward his father's service was hurting their relationship. Maybe there was another way. Walter offered wisdom that had sustained him through 7 decades of military and civilian life. His voice carried authority that even Jason's parents had to respect. "Jason, finish high school. Research military service carefully. Talk to recruiters, active duty personnel, veterans. Make informed decisions based on education, not emotion," Walter advised. The compromise balanced Jason's newfound military interest with his parents' concerns about hasty decisions. "I'll learn everything about military service," Jason promised. "If I still want to serve after graduation, I'll enlist with family support instead of family opposition." His parents gradually accepted the compromise. They began to understand that Walter's influence had been educational rather than manipulative. Robert felt pride watching his family reconcile around shared values. They were learning to honor military sacrifice while respecting individual choice about service. Tyler made his own decision. "Mr. Griffin, could you help me understand my dad's service? I think I've been angry at the wrong things." Walter smiled. "Son, healing begins when we choose understanding over anger. Come by next week and we'll talk about helping your father." The offer extended compassion to a young man whose pain had manifested as cruelty. But healing was possible with guidance and patience. As evening approached, Walter prepared to leave. He reflected on an unexpected day that had transformed teenage mockery into family reconciliation and community education. "Lieutenant Griffin, thank you for teaching my grandson about service," Robert said. He shook hands with the commanding officer who had saved his life decades earlier. Jason approached with genuine respect that had replaced cruel entertainment. "Sir, I promise to honor Marines like you through whatever service I choose. Your stories won't be forgotten." Walter smiled while understanding that military legacy lived through young people who chose character over comfort. "Son, remember that service comes in many forms: military, teaching, medicine, public service. The uniform doesn't matter. The commitment to protecting others does," Walter advised. Tyler approached more hesitantly. The afternoon had changed him too, though more slowly than Jason's dramatic transformation. "Mr. Griffin, I'm sorry for being disrespectful. Maybe we could talk about my dad sometime?" "Healing takes time, son, but it starts with choosing understanding over anger. Your father needs your support, not your resentment," Walter offered. The diner customers applauded as 3 generations connected through military service. The community had witnessed transformation from mockery to respect, entertainment to education, cruelty to compassion that honored elderly veterans. Jason's live stream ended with record viewership and comments requesting more military history content. His cruel entertainment had become an educational platform that honored rather than exploited sacrifice. Jason's transformation inspired 100,000-plus followers to learn about military history, while his content evolved from cruel entertainment to educational platform honoring veteran sacrifice. Walter began weekly visits to local schools, sharing Korean War stories that connected military history with current freedoms students had previously taken for granted. Tyler's family healing began gradually through Walter's patient counseling that helped his father process combat trauma while rebuilding their relationship. Robert and Walter renewed their friendship while establishing veterans program connecting elderly warriors with young people seeking purpose beyond social media validation. Jason's parents accepted his military interest while requiring college preparation that enhanced rather than replaced his service potential through education and maturity. The diner became unofficial veterans gathering place where stories were shared and civilian community learned appreciation for military sacrifice. 18 months later, Jason graduated high school while maintaining his commitment to military service, Walter's influence having sustained his character development through social pressure and family concerns. At 94, Walter continued teaching young people about military sacrifice, while his patient education had transformed dozens of disrespectful teenagers into respectful young adults who understood service. Tyler slowly repaired his relationship with his veteran father while learning that military service deserved honor rather than resentment that had poisoned their family bonds. They learned that some battles are fought with bullets, others with patient teaching. But the most important ones are fought in hearts and minds where mockery becomes respect, cruelty becomes compassion, and entertainment becomes education that honors those who sacrificed everything, so others could inherit freedom, requiring ongoing appreciation rather than temporary acknowledgement that fades when cameras stop rolling. Some battles are fought with bullets, others with patient teaching, but the most important ones are fought in hearts and minds where mockery becomes respect and entertainment becomes education, honoring those who sacrificed everything for freedom.